Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Thursday evening, February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day. Uh, this is our Hoops HD
Tom Brady
bracket.
is not retiring. It's
Is he
Groundhog Day.
really not retiring again?
Well, it's
Who
Groundhog Day.
knows?
He's
I
coming
don't know. I
back.
don't know. This is our bracket rundown show. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Dorman and David Griggs up top, Joby Fortune and John Stalika down in the row below me. And if you've been watching this show every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks in a row, when we're doing these bracket rundowns so far this season, our format's been that we've built the seed list on the air, and we decided to completely scrap that this week.
Yep.
We're doing a completely different format here. What we are doing tonight is we are going to do a little bit of a bracket reveal show. What I asked is everybody on the show, along with a few other of our colleagues, Mike Cha, John Titel, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, we all submitted our personal seed list, our personal list of the top about 55 teams. Griggs's case, 56 teams.
Yeah, I ranked 56. I'm an overachiever. I put 56 teams.
In the entire nation, regardless of conference. I cross-country scored that like you would a top 25 poll, created a consensus seed list, bracketed it up, and we're going to reveal the bracket right here, live on the air, kind of Selection Sunday style. So it should be a whole bunch of fun, and we're going to see matchups as we go through this and everything.
It would be a better bracket if you just used my seed list, because it's
one quick note: we are recording this around 10 p.m. here on February 2nd. The brackets were all submitted as of the beginning of the day today, so a few notable finals that already happened tonight, including Northwestern's home loss to Michigan, Wisconsin's win at Ohio State, Florida Atlantic's loss at UAB, Charleston's loss at Drexel. All those were not factored into these, although we can discuss how they might affect these teams as we reveal them. Also not factored into the games that are going on this evening, if there are any more upsets. Houston's playing, Arizona, St. Mary's, Gonzaga, USC, UCLA, all playing this evening. Also not factored in. Did I get everything?
Nor were head coach ejections be featured like Chris Holtman at Ohio State.
wow.
But
and a terrible uniform selection by the Badgers. What were they wearing?
I got ejected, so I missed him getting ejected.
I'm going to start things off, though, with a blind resume. And this is a David Griggs special blind resume. Griggs, I want this one just for you to tell us which of these teams, left or right, is better before we go into the actual bracket reveal. Should be coming on the screen in a second. They are not 8 miles apart, but which of these teams, left or right, is better? We see a team on the left with a 7-3 road record, and the team on the right with an 0-5 road record.
Well, it's definitely the team on the left. That is the better team. They've won 7 road games. I don't see how anybody could think it's not the team on the left. That is clearly a superior resume.
Stalika, you almost left the show last week because of Griggs' screaming about road games. Does this not prove that there's a little bit more to a resume than just a road win?
No.
I have to admit, that's some solid work to have, 5 tier 4 losses at home right there. So, I mean, that's good if you're looking for the centenary, but 7 road wins has to be kind of devastating.
Yeah, including a home loss to a non-D1 team. Yeah, it's the Pacific Tigers, who are nobody's board, other than maybe Griggs is on the left there.
Well, I got them ahead of Arkansas.
The Arkansas Razorbacks on the right there, which is a team that we are going to be possibly seeing in the field tonight, or very close to it. Although I guess, Joby, it is a gaping hole not to have a road win on your resume.
I mean, and full disclosure, they were in my field, but on the 11 line, which is well below national consensus, which has them as a 9. I still don't understand why so many people for so long on Bracket Matrix have them as an 8 or a 9. I just don't see it on that resume. But anyway,
I have a theory, and while it may be comical, I'm absolutely serious. I think the reason people have them as an 8 or a 9 is because they look at Bracket Matrix and think, oh, everybody else has them as an 8 or a 9. I think Bracket Matrix, while accurate, is an extreme example of groupthink.
Maybe we need to put Pacific somewhere on Bracket Matrix and see what happens.
Yeah. I selected Bellarmine one year. I forget. Remember that? And they put it on there.
Let's go to the screen that we're going to use it tonight. This is a blank bracket. Obviously, we're going to fill these in here, and we are going to start with the number 1 team overall. And I don't know that I really remember us ever having, I'm sure it's happened before, a complete unanimous pick on the number 1 overall team, but we absolutely had that tonight. The Purdue Boilermakers, number
Pacific-
one overall.
It's not the Pacific Tigers.
It's not the Pacific Tigers. Dorman, how
Chad,
about-
we did have a unanimous number one in our group before, and that
Okay.
team, I remember it well. That team lost to UMBC very shortly.
Okay.
Oh.
So not a
No.
good sign when we get to the end of the show,
No.
reveal Purdue's 16 seed opponent. But Dorman, what about the Boilermakers? I mean, they're just, I don't think there's any question right now. They're the number one team.
There's no question. Not only are they winning, but they are just rolling. I mean, they Michigan State to the woodshed. Penn State, who I think is a solid team, no problem the other night. They're just clicking on all cylinders. And if you can't stop the big guy down low, good luck to you, because he has everything, not only on defense, but offense. He's got skills. If you're going to foul him, he'll hit the shots at the free throw line. He's a solid passer to hit the 3-point shooters outside if he gets doubled. I love this Purdue team. Painter's got it going.
Yeah, it's not quite Chicago Cubs or Boston Red Sox, but they have not been to a Final Four since 1980. That predates the 64 team format, and I think it predates. No, it doesn't predate seeding, but it's been a long dry spell. So people around Purdue are once again getting excited, and I guess the question is, will they once again have their hearts broken in the Elite Eight?
It also predates Gene Katie, oddly enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, never went.
never went.
Never
yeah.
went.
As great
Jay
as he
Clark
was.
is still around, Purdue fans.
Yeah.
Number two overall, not quite unanimous, although I think 6 out of 8 voters had them there. The Alabama Crimson Tide. And Stalika, what do you think about this Alabama team? Did we all get it? Did we get it right as a consensus here?
I think they got a little bit bored last week. They had a bedwetting in Oklahoma, but whatever problems they had appeared to be cured rather significantly at home against Vanderbilt right here. They had been blowing out teams for about a month and a half right here, and they do have a decent collection of road and neutral wins right here, including the win at Houston. That even though Houston hasn't looked as good as we thought we would, that's still going to hold a significant amount of weight right there.
And I just look at it and I look at their quad one. It's almost amazing that every single quad one game they've played, win and loss, has been away from home, either road or neutral. And they are 6-3 in quad one. And that's pretty darn impressive, Joby.
Yes, I mean, I said it at when
That
it
is
happened. It's like, guys,
unbelievable.
don't get overreact on one game, you know, in Oklahoma. My goodness, the resume was just so strong. It was boggling my mind when I was seeing people, you know, like Andy Katz was on his podcast apologizing for keeping Alabama as 4th overall and on the one side. It's like, what type of short-term memory do people have? Thank goodness they dispelled anything by just taking, when we say beat Vanderbilt, they were up like 43-18. Like it was over, like drop of a hat over. So yeah, this Alabama team is, in my opinion, clearly number 2 right now. I think the next 2 to 4 slots are going to be very interesting now.
A couple of us did not have Alabama number 2, including myself. I actually had the team that came in number 3 at number 2, and I had Alabama 3rd, but I understand it. It is the Kansas Jayhawks that came in at number 3. And Dorman, let me have you address them, because you did not even have them as a 1 seed. You had them on your 2 line.
I did have them on the 2 line. It was between Tennessee and Kansas, if you want to pull those two up for that last final number 1 seed. And again, almost to Joby's point, it's just not the last game. I know last night Florida had their A game and they took the Volunteers out, but it's impressive, this Tennessee. I know Joby doesn't like it, but the losses are in Arizona, at Florida, Kentucky. The one Colorado I can't explain, but Kansas, Texas, Maryland, Mississippi State, the wins are just piling up. I know some are in tier 3 and tier 4. It's tight. I understand Joby's argument, but I have Tennessee slightly ahead of Kansas today.
Okay, and we'll get to Tennessee here in a moment. They're not quite in our field yet, but on Kansas side here, Griggs, we just talked about that impressive 6-3 for Alabama against tier 1. You got 8-4 on Kansas. I'd argue that's even better than 6-3.
9-4.
9-4.
Yeah,
Thank you. 9-4. Even better.
Right.
Better.
And head to head for Tennessee should be considered. They didn't win the game, but when you look at everything else they've done, they don't have a loss to anybody that is not a protected seed. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know where TCU is going to end up, but they just have that is a lot of tier 1 wins, and that's at West Virginia, at Kentucky. These are not the easiest places in the world to win. The one thing that they don't have that Tennessee does is a win against a protected seed away from home. But I still just love this Kansas team.
Well,
okay, I don't root for them.
Okay.
I'm impressed by this Kansas team.
There is, when you do want stuff like this with the way that we score it, it's kind of gets interesting that, there were, for the one line here, several teams, including Tennessee, Arizona, even Texas that got a little bit of love for being on the one line. As a result, a team that may have been most people's brackets on the top of the 2 line actually was only in 2 out of the 8 brackets as a 1 seed, ended up being our 4th 1 seed, almost by default, because everybody liked them, but nobody wanted to quite put them on the one line. And that's what, when you have a committee voting, ended up putting Houston up on the one line. Found that kind of a fascinating process, and how the real committee might actually work. That if everybody thinks you're number 5 overall, but can't decide who number 3 overall, number 3 and number 4 overall is, you could end up moving up a spot.
You could, Chad. I'll let you describe this.
Elected. I mean,
Yeah,
my God.
I'll let you describe this real quick. There is a process called scrubbing. We are not going to do that tonight because you've already built the bracket. But could you kind of explain what that is and when it might come into play? And this is when it might come into play.
Well, after the committee does create its 1 through 68 seed list, they do have a voting process where they can move teams 1 spot up or down. And you are correct. If everybody thought that Houston belonged on the top of the 2 line, they probably would find a way to move them down a spot and move the number 5 team up. Like I said, I think if there was much more of a consensus as to who the number 4 team was, it would have happened. But there was such divergence between all of us here about that last team that the team that everyone liked 5th best ends up getting the most points to move up to 4th overall.
Yeah.
But not that Houston's not deserving of it,
Yeah.
although they are struggling right now as we record this with the game at Wichita State.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be on the one line at the end, just because I think they're going to drop a couple more before the end of the year. They might drop this one tonight. Their resume tops out really good. The win at Virginia is exceptionally good, and they don't have as many opportunities playing in the American as, say, the Big 12 teams do to get wins against protected seeds. But I don't think that the way this team plays tonight, and maybe down the stretch in against Temple, and maybe in some other games that they don't end up winning, will be indicative of how they'll play in the NCAA tournament. This is a team that could go to the Final Four, regardless of where their seed ends up being.
Yeah. Let me start with it on the 2 line here. And Stalika, number 5.
Chad, I got a question.
Yeah.
I noticed that there are numbers in parentheses. I don't think we explained that to the audience. What is that?
If you're paying attention, you're probably not that hard to figure it out. That is where you are overall on the seed list, and that will only apply to the top 16 teams. After that,
Yeah.
and after we get through the top 16 teams, I could do a whole seed line at a time. But the first
Okay.
16 teams will go one at a time. But Stalika,
Now,
number
why
5.
do we have to keep track of that, Chad?
Okay,
For
Griggs.
region balance. For region balance. Come on.
We're not doing the whole exercise and how bracketing actually works tonight. Maybe one day we will do that. But
Okay.
But Stalika, I do want to move on here. Arizona came in at number 5 overall. This was a team that was interesting. One person, Mr. Griggs, had them down in the 3 line, where Joby and Rocco both had them the 1 seeds. Stalika, you also had them at a 1 seed. I had them at a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think I had them as my number 4 overall.
Right.
I think one of the things that may have brought Arizona down in some brackets was the fact that they have multiple losses against teams that won't be in the field. But keep in mind, this is a team that won the Maui Invitational. That does include wins against San Diego State and Creighton. They also have home wins against Tennessee and UCLA that are still going to be looking strong at the end of the day right here. I thought they had probably a slight edge overall, maybe a little more consistency versus Houston, for example.
Right, and Dorman, this is, you are an Arizona alum. And you had them on the 2 line even lower than this, I believe, but again, you've got that huge pile of tier 1 wins and that great record against tier 1.
Yeah, the tier 1 is absolutely impressive. I mean, you go down, we're going to be Tennessee protect. I don't want to give away everything, but there's a ton of protected seeds in that win column there, win after win. And if they're not going to be protected, I think there's so many that are going to be in our tournament tonight. It's impressive. They get Oregon tonight. It's a revenge game. They got blasted in Eugene a few weeks ago. Let's see if they get that one. And then we'll see what happens at the end of the year as UCLA and USC, they go on the road the final time to the LA schools. If they can hold those 2 wins, I think you'll see them on the 1 line.
Yeah, I think you're right, but they got a long way to go to get there still.
No doubt.
Joby, they've been on the screen there for a little while there. We know Dorman wanted them on the 1 line. Tennessee did come in number 6 overall.
And Tennessee's got a solid resume. They finally, with the win this past weekend, they finally started. My complaint with Tennessee is when you compare them to the teams, we whether it's Kansas, whether it's Arizona, whether it's Alabama, we've said, wow, look at all those wins against the field. Look at all those wins, tier 1 wins. Tennessee actually doesn't have the depth that those teams do in terms of wins against the field, so to speak. They obviously, though, got to have some really nice ones with Texas and Kansas. But the overall depth, I want to see a little more. They'll get it in the SEC. They have the chance for me to move up to a 1 seed, especially as Arizona, UCLA play each other and things like that. But I want to see more. I still want to see more. And I might have thought about them on the 1 line, but yes, because you don't have the depth and then you lose to Florida in the manner that they did yesterday, that's why I had them on a 2. But certainly great team. If they wind up on the 1 line, they will have earned it at the end of the day.
And I've got up there on the left the Texas Longhorns. I'll quickly go back over the screen here. A little bit of a sneak preview. They are the number 7 team overall. And this was an interesting, Joby. You had them as your last 1 seed. Sleeka,
Yeah.
You had them down in the 3 line. And I want to call you out more, Sleek, on this. Can you justify why you had Texas so low?
I think with the case of Texas, it's probably because they're more of a home court hero right here. Granted, they have some great home wins against Gonzaga, Baylor, TCU, and Creighton right here. I think, well, I don't have the list in front of me. I probably would have been slightly more impressed with what some of the other teams have done away from home, which includes the road and the neutral component versus simply just racking up the quality wins solely at home in the case of the Longhorns.
All right. And I want to start by welcoming our good friend Mike Cha, who just jumped into the podcast. Mike, how you doing tonight? Thanks for
good. I just got
joining in.
home 2 seconds ago. Yeah, good. First meeting of the year.
Hey, Chad, I think we're overlooking a team here. If we could go back to the Texas profile, it's the team we looked at in the blind resume. Pacific has far more true road wins.
Okay. We have.
And this is a team, by the way, who has a road win against a definite tournament team and maybe another. So it's not like Texas is bereft. Texas has one thing that no one else in the country has, and that is they are all alone in first place in the toughest league, top to bottom. I mean, that is it. And it's not a fluke. They have a great overall record, along with tons of wins against the field, tons of wins against protected seeds. Love this Texas resume. I am in shock, though, what they've done without Chris Beard. I thought that they go in the tank, but I got to look at the numbers, got to look at how they played, and I am impressed.
I'll give you a counterpoint, Joby. If they're in first place after their next 2 road games at Kansas State and at Kansas, then I would definitely be on the Texas as a number 2, if not a number 1 seed.
I'll jump in here. I think if Texas does the double as we all know, regular season and can run the Big 12 tournament, they will pass Houston and they will take over that 1 seed line. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind if Texas does the double.
Dorman, if
They'll
Purdue
pass
slips,
Kansas if they
Yeah,
do that.
if Texas does the double, they might jump over Purdue.
yeah, that's exactly what's going to go. They may end up number 1 overall, especially if Purdue loses another game somewhere along the lines here.
Yeah.
But let's keep rolling here and let's review the last of our 2 seeds, and that is Kansas State, which was pretty unanimous. Most people had them right at the bottom of the 2, top of the 3 line, so it's not much of a surprise there. But this K-State team, just has, even though they're coming off of the loss here at Kansas, there's a lot of good here still. Griggs.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one I probably had them higher than everybody else. I actually had them as my 4th overall team. And it gets back to, I don't think the actual committee would have them that high, but I love the fact that they've beaten the Texas team we just talked about on the road and another road win against Baylor. Like, those just aren't random Pacific road wins. Those are road wins against almost assuredly protected seeds. That is phenomenally good. So there are 1 seeds that sometimes don't get a single that don't get 1. They already have 2. That's pretty good. That's why I like them so much.
All right. Start off the 3 line here. Mike, let me bring you in here. In the Midwest region there, we see UCLA popping up to start off the 3 line. As we record this, they're up by about 12 points on Washington. This UCLA team, though, another team that was not that much of a debate, that this is kind of where they belong. Most people had them bottom of the 2, top of the 3 line.
Oh yeah, UCLA is a solid 3 seed. That's pretty much a no-brainer. They need to beef up their resume if they're going to move up, but they're 3 is just right for UCLA.
Well, the problem with beefing up their resume is really, if you look at the rest of the rate schedule, there's really not those opportunities.
Right.
I mean, win at Oregon helps a little
we
bit.
were talking about if they had won at Arizona, they could have been a 1 seed, but yeah, they had chances at Arizona, at USC. Have they played at Oregon yet? I mean, that's
Coming up.
of any other.
Coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, they're only tough road. They're only real quality road game left. I mean, at Utah, at Colorado, also, those are not tournament teams. Oregon, not tournament team either. The only tournament team left really right now is probably their last game of the regular season at home against Arizona. So, they gotta really dominate to really move up here on the.
It seems like their ceiling is a 2, like run the table, win the Pac-12 tournament, and then their ceiling would be a 2.
Probably.
Agreed.
Let's go ahead and throw another Big 12 team in. We've already got 3. Let's make it 4 over there in the West region. Stalika, we've got Baylor came in here as number 10 overall. Also a team that it was fairly consensus that this is right around where they belonged.
Baylor is another team that's been pretty consistent since the beginning of Big 12 play right here. I'll admit, I wasn't sure about Baylor when they were getting blown out at Marquette. They did rebound with the win against Gonzaga at the Pentagon in Sioux Falls. But if you also go back to Baylor, they also have a decent amount of other wins away from home. If you look at the UCLA game as well, that was out in Vegas, and in true road wins, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and unlike Iowa State, they did not melt down at Texas Tech.
Yeah, we have not seen Iowa State come into this field yet.
Yeah, if I had arms and hands, I would raise my hand and ask the question to the panel, because it sounds like what Chad said, it was pretty unanimous. I'm a little surprised that people like UCLA more than Baylor when Baylor has more good wins, including a win against UCLA. Why is that, panel committee?
Well, let me ask, let's find somebody who liked them better here. Actually, Stalika, you're one who had UCLA.
I had Baylor 2 spots above UCLA, so don't point the finger at me.
No, I'm just asking the question. It's a committee. It's a discussion.
One of the thing is the 2 people that are not on, that did vote here, that are not on tonight, with both Titel and Rocco, had UCLA ranked higher by a couple of spots. Stalika, you had a significant difference, though. 7th overall.
And interesting, they're not here.
12th for Baylor.
Yeah.
So
Interesting, they're not here.
I think this is in the case of UCLA, the resume isn't quite up there, but when they're beating teams, they are beating them down right here.
Okay. So let's keep things moving, though. Joby, Coming in at number 11 overall, you know why I'm going to you. There it
Yeah.
is. It's the Who's.
I would, and while I am responsible as much as anybody else, I actually had Virginia in this spot. If you're going to go to head, Virginia did beat Baylor on a neutral court, and Virginia beat Baylor and Illinois, who both beat UCLA in that same tournament on a neutral court. So Griggs's reasoning would have Virginia 9th overall. But no, this is about, I think
It did.
but Virginia, I think I like the trajectory of where Virginia's going right now. They're playing well. Once again, there could be a hiccup here or there, but I truly believe Virginia will win the regular season title in the ACC. We'll get to the discussion of the other team tied with them right now, I'm sure later. And I think at the end of the day, Virginia, the schedule sets up really nice. They're getting a lot of the tough games left in the unbalanced schedule at home, Duke, Clemson. I actually think, besides at North Carolina, I actually think the biggest tough spot for Virginia is this weekend because, while Virginia Tech, they're healthy with Hunter Couture, but also it's a rivalry game that Virginia Tech cares about a lot more than Virginia, as far as the emotion goes. And it seems like Virginia Tech always picks one of the two games off a year against Virginia. So if Virginia can get past Virginia Tech, they have a real shot at running the table and doing the double in the ACC even.
All right. Number 12 overall, finish out our 3 line. Dorman, Gonzaga did get in here as our last 3 seed. There was some discrepancy. A couple people that thought they were way down the bottom of the 4 line. I think you kind of had a little bit more in the middle of the pack here, but what about these Zags? This Zag team that even when they win, they're just not looking very good doing so.
Yeah, I think it's more of exactly what you're saying there, Chad. The committee thinking it hasn't been that pretty since the beginning of the season, since we remember them running up and down with Alabama and looking great, and early on with Xavier. But I think there'll be a lot sorted out this weekend when they go to St. Mary's. That's the one everyone's looking for. If they look really good, I think they cement themselves on that 3 line right here. If not, there could be a fall. I really believe that, because then maybe people start to think, well, maybe they're not that good. So I will be watching intently Saturday night.
Yeah, they got to get past Santa Clara at home tonight too before we get
True.
there. But
Very true.
it is a
That's
game.
it's going. It might be a
That's
sweat.
not going to be easy.
It's a tough Santa Clara team. Griggs, I'm going to go to you to start off the 4 line. There they are in the Midwest region, a team that you thought belonged to the 2 line and the TCU Horned Frogs. And I want to give you a chance to defend your pick because I don't think it made any sense.
Well, it makes
nor
it
did
makes
yours.
brilliant sense. You got to look at the win at Kansas and the win at Baylor, and like nobody else that we've put in the field really has 2 wins that good. And like, there's no real bad losses except the one against
Then you can't say there's no bad losses if there is a bad loss.
If you scroll up, you don't even see it. It's so down on the, but really it is just the girth of the win at Kansas. Baylor, K-State at home, while at home, is still really good. Iowa on a neutral floor is pretty good. And just when you match that up against, I'll take UCLA, for instance. It's like, they've beaten Maryland and Kentucky at a time Kentucky was not playing as well as they are now. And yay.
Dorman, do you want to respond to that? You had them 16 overall, the lowest of all of us, by the way.
I think they're getting helped out by the conference here, but it's impressive. These Kansas wins, this Baylor win, the Kansas State. I mean, these are all protected seats, so I really can't argue that much. There's just one team that hasn't popped up that I think resume is a little stronger than them. But as our friend Mr. Titel would say, I really wouldn't veto at this point on the beginning the 4 line with TCU. But I do have one team that hasn't come up that I feel is stronger.
Well, for number 14 overall, let's stick in the Big 12. Joby, it's the Iowa State Cyclones, a team that's heading in the wrong direction right now, though.
Exactly. If we had done this reveal a week ago, I'd be shocked if they weren't on the 3 and maybe even the 2. They've fallen to the 4. This is where they belong. You can only have so many Big 12 teams because they beat each other, on this line. And so, and what hurt them also is while Texas Tech is still a tier one when they're not a tournament team right now, and that is a loss outside that affects how they are compared to their peers, which are at this stage. I mean, how many Big 12 teams do we have? We have Texas, Kansas State,
6.
Baylor. Yeah, this is their number 6 or 7 because of TCU. My gosh, that they're still a solid team. They shouldn't be ashamed with a 4, and this is where they belong.
That wasn't more than just a loss at Texas Tech. That was blowing a 23-point lead in the second half.
Yeah.
It was bad, and they've really
Yeah.
got to bounce back. And it's not easy to bounce back in the Big 12 when your next game is home against Kansas, then at West Virginia, then Oklahoma State, then TCU. It's crazy.
I don't think it matters that much because the game was so out of hand. Iowa State was blowing them out so bad that I bet the 12 committee members changed the station and didn't see the end of it.
Okay, Griggs, Stalika, I gotta go to you for number 15 overall because it is your team, the Xavier Musketeers, coming in here. You actually personally had them, I think, right around here as well, 14 or 15 overall.
Interesting.
Coming off a very, very exciting win. The game against Providence just last night.
It was an exciting win over Providence, but there's also going to be a lot of similarities between TCU and Xavier going forward because they both have significant injuries, and that TCU has a Mike Miles, who had to leave the game early against Mississippi State. And shortly after we went off the air on Monday night, we found out Zach Freemantle is in a walking boot and is probably going to be out at least a month because of a fracture in his foot. So it was very important for the Musketeers to show they could win without Freemantle in the lineup. So getting the win against Providence was obviously pretty big right here. And they're going to get their bye at a perfect time right here once they get past the St. John's game on Saturday. Because if you look at their schedule, he could be back for the game at Providence, but given the nature of the injury, it's also possible he might not be back at all this year.
Yeah, that's big, and they've got they got a game at Marquette they got to get through before they get there. Tough game at Seton Hall, but I look at their profile right now. You go down and you include Tier 2A as well. 11 wins there. I mean, that's versus only 4 losses in those top 2 tiers.
If
I
not
think
for the stinker at DePaul, they probably would be on the 3 line by now.
Our last protected seed, our last 4 seed, Mike, is the Marquette Golden Eagles. They sneak in there. We just previewed them a little bit with their upcoming game against Xavier in a couple of weeks here. But
Good team.
how about this kind of red hot Marquette team? They've been rushing up the seed list.
Yeah, they may not get the publicity that other teams get, but if you look at their resume, they've been rock solid. I really like Marquette's resume. I had them at the 15th spot overall. So not only as a 4 seed, but solidly into that 4 line. So I absolutely love this Marquette pick in the 4 seed line. So it's just a solid resume, overlooked.
It's
And
kind
I'm sorry,
of
when you compare Wisconsin and DePaul. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'll take
Wisconsin as a
this is
tier
where the
3.
committee looks inside the resumes and goes,
Yeah.
what a BS net that is for the Badgers.
but look at it also the Wisconsin game. Actually, no, Wisconsin 77 overall. I think that moves up to a tier 2 very soon.
Yeah, maybe
if
because
Wisconsin
of the
can move
win
up.
tonight, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
By tomorrow,
Yeah.
it should be a tier 2. Yeah.
Another point about Marquette is that they're playing better now than they were in December. I think that they're going at a much faster speed now than they were in November and December. And with the games they have ahead of them, and with the Big East tournament beyond the games on their schedule, whether you think they're a 4 now or not, I believe that they're good enough to get there by the end.
I'm not the biggest Shaka fan, but what he has done with this team and the offense, their offense is beautiful. They work the ball. They get great open looks. They get great shots. They push the ball when they have a chance. They hit threes. The offense is beautiful at Marquette. Shaka's done a really good job.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it was kind of interesting here as far as who these tops. While we all varied on the order of the 16 teams, other than one team by Mr. Stalika, all of us agreed that these are the top 16 teams right now.
Really? That's unbelievable.
It was, other than Stalika, you did not have Iowa State here. You would have had a team that's going to show up on our 5 line here. But other than that, that really was amazing that that I think there is a big drop off after these top
Yes.
16 teams from this 4 line down to the 5 line that we're about to reveal. And as I mentioned, I'm going to do a full line at a time, so we're go a little bit quicker from here on out. But the next 4 teams up here on the 5 line, we see Illinois, UConn, Rutgers, and Indiana. It is the almost all Big Ten line. And Sleek, let me start with that Illinois team, because that's the one team that you thought should be up on the 4 line, although just barely.
I think Illinois is another team that's been getting some momentum of late in the Big Ten right here. I mean, they also, as the puppet has noted, they have the neutral court wins against UCLA and Texas, which are also going to be nice chips to have. Problem is, their biggest win out in the Big Ten is at Ohio State, but that's looking more fraudulent by the day. Michigan State, but you also have the wins at Wisconsin and Nebraska that should hold a little bit of weight. But hopefully Wisconsin does get back on track a little bit more. The only problem for the Illini is you never know what team you're going to get. One day they're beating UCLA or Baylor. The other minute they're getting sandblasted at home against Penn State.
But they have won 3 in a row now. Joby, my Rutgers Scarlet Knights coming in on this line here as well, holding what is I gotta say here is the best road win, is the best win of anybody in the entire nation right now.
Agree 100%. There's a reason why Purdue has won, not just on their seed, but also in the loss column. And Rutgers is the one who delivered it. Rutgers
At Purdue.
Yeah, and Rutgers, what I like about Rutgers is it's not just, the Purdue win. If we were just celebrating teams on one great win, Temple would be in our field. The fact of the matter is they've put together Indiana on this line, Northwestern likely to be in our field, Maryland likely to be in our field. And then while Ohio State won't because of overall record, Penn State and Wake will probably be in the others considered column. This is a very, very solid team who, as pointed out earlier, ever since that Purdue win, has been playing at the level that is protected seed-esque. If it weren't for the stumbles against the aforementioned Temple and Seton Hall, this team would be in the discussion very seriously for those top 4 seeds, if not higher.
Right. Dorman, I pulled up Indiana here on the left as well. This is a team that looked like they were starting to head towards that 4 line. Big setback at Maryland, though.
Yeah, they didn't look good at Maryland. They kind of looked like they took the night off, maybe resting on the laurels, what they had done over the weekend. But I think Indiana is worthy of this spot. Now they got a two game stretch coming up, which is going to tell us a lot. They got Purdue, the in-state rival. Purdue is red hot. We all know that. After that, they also get Rutgers, both games at home. We just showed Rutgers on this line. So that's how important the next 4 or 5 days are for Indiana. And I think we'll know a lot more. Even Michigan after that is starting to play a little better. I know Mike will be happy with that. But I think this is exactly the spot Indiana should be right now.
Right. UConn also on this line here, pulled them up. They got a much needed win, albeit at DePaul this week. But let's move right over to the 6th line here. And the 4 teams coming in the 6th line. We've got Duke, St. Mary's, Providence, and Miami. And Mike, your thoughts on all 4 of these teams here that come in? Do you kind of agree with these, or I think you kind of had them right around here, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I do agree. Let's see. I'm checking Duke, Miami, St. Mary's, and then Providence I had 25, Missouri 24. So Providence at the 6th line, I have no problem with that at all. Like you said, after the top 4 lines, it's really hard to separate like the 6s and the 7s. Like the difference is so small. Like you can make a case for a team to be in the 6th line or the 7th line. I mean, it's the difference is so small, and we still have a long way to go. 5-6 weeks left, so a lot to be determined. So I have absolutely no problem with the 6th line here.
All right, Griggs, I'm going to give you 3 seconds on it because you want to. Here it is on the left. It's Duke's profile.
Well, I had them at 29th overall, which is the top of the 8 line. I got to say that I would have them on the 7 after tonight, after something that happened to one of the teams I had ahead of them. It's not a bad profile other than it tops out against Xavier before Xavier got going. I don't think Ohio State even belongs in the field. Iowa, while good, is not in our field yet. So I don't really think that that is a 60 caliber win. And I just don't think they've really done anything else.
Well,
That's
hold on.
that
The
difficult.
Miami just got in on this line here and they beat them.
At home, yeah. But Miami's not the best. I like their profile. I just don't think it's. I think there's teams that are slightly better, and we have them on the 6. I'd have them on the 7. That's lower, but it isn't like I have them on the 10 or 11.
Okay.
That I think that this is an outrageous spot for them. I would personally have them a little lower, but not substantially lower.
They got the huge road win at Georgia Tech over the
They,
weekend.
which isn't to me that was
Right
huge
before
in the
Georgia
sense
Tech
at least
went
they
to
were
Louisville.
at least they were able to beat somebody.
Well, they got their 3 biggest road games still to come at Miami, at Virginia, at North Carolina. So
I don't think they win any. Well, they might win at North Carolina because I have a feeling that Duke and North Carolina might set up the road win exchange program, which they both desperately need.
only 8 miles. Only 8 miles away. It's basically a home game anyhow.
Yeah, I don't think it should count.
Joby, real quick. St. Mary's. It's kind of is this
can see-
they got the huge net. That's why it's kind of like
Right. And I actually like St. Mary's. They've done what they needed to do in front of them. Yeah, they have a few hiccups, but this weekend is everything. We're giving the net gives them the benefit of the doubt. And now, we'll see how we go. I had them here. So, I've not been the most loving of our major Western conferences, so to speak.
Slika, let me reveal the 7 seeds here. There. We've got Michigan State, another Big Ten team, along with Iowa. So 2 Big Ten teams on this line, along with Auburn and San Diego State.
Good.
Hi.
I think given the lack of substance in the San Diego State profile, this is about where they belong right here. Michigan State and Iowa, they're kind of grinding out through the Big Ten right here. They probably have a little bit of a higher ceiling right now. I have no problem with them being down this low for the time being right here. And notice how Auburn, this is like only the 3rd SEC team we've mentioned, despite this supposed to be one of the premier conferences in the country.
Great point.
Mike, I put Auburn profile up here on the left. You had them the lowest rate of all of them. So you've had them a couple seed lines lower. You want to tell us why Auburn isn't that good? Because you might be able to convince me.
Yeah, because this is the first time I've had an extended look at the teams. Just give me a second looking at the Warren Nolan ratings here. I remember seeing Auburn's profile. It's like, let's see.
It's right there.
Yeah, we got it here up on the
It's
screen.
right there.
Okay.
Home win over Arkansas, neutral court win over Northwestern. That's it for tier 1.
Yeah, I just think in terms of the quality, wins is a little bit light. I mean, a home win over Arkansas is nice. A neutral court win over Northwestern's nice, but it's just to me, it wasn't just wasn't that impressive. I mean,
I'm with Mike. Do they have a win against the field?
I'm going to further Mike's point and say that a
I'm with
home
you.
win against Arkansas isn't that nice because everybody that they've played on the road has beaten them.
Dorman, I guess you don't want me to tell you that you had them 25 overall, which tied for the highest of anybody.
It's a
I'm
little
wrong.
light. That's why I didn't like Auburn that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those
I'm
teams you don't know
wrong.
what to do with because there's nothing good, nothing bad.
Right.
They're in
It's
a
kinda
power
bland.
conference.
This is one of those bracket matrix inertia things that Greg's referred
But
to.
they got
Yeah.
Bama and Tennessee twice still to come each. So hey,
Right.
we're gonna learn
That's
a
going to be the
lot.
litmus test for them. They got to beat the big boys, and that's coming up.
Greg's, I'm gonna give you a
Yes,
couple
the
seconds here on the team on the right because you had them on the 10 line.
Yes. I don't see anything. I mean, nothing that indicates that they belong any higher than that. I mean, I have them inside the bubble. I don't think Ohio State is good at all.
This is San Diego State, by the way, for those. just
Yeah,
listening.
San Diego State, and if that's their best win, UNLV not in the field. I know that it's not easy to win at Vegas, and they did it, but Utah State, not a good road team. Nevada, so I just don't see anything there. I was kind of shocked, especially given how much Joby beats the drum against the Mountain West. I was actually kind of surprised that they popped up here. I must be in the minority, but yeah, I had them as 40th.
Well, Joe, you had them a couple lines lower, but not as low as Griggs had them.
Yeah, and yeah,
I don't even like them. There's teams in the Mountain West I like more than them.
I mean, they have a share with another Mountain West team of the lead, so pure inertia gets them there. But yeah, I'm with Griggs here. Yeah, I had him on the 9 line, so it's not like I'm like, arriving, because that's where I think that's around where they'll wind up. There's a little eye test liking them a little more than their Mountain West counterparts, but I think the team, I could easily be convinced that the team that's tied for them for the lead for the Mountain West might be more deserving, because they do have a little more collection of wins, at least against the NIT field.
Well, there is another Mountain West team on our 8 line here. Who are we up to here? I think Stolica, New Mexico there, along with NC State, Missouri, and Florida Atlantic. Again, this was before FAU's loss tonight at UAB. But your thoughts on these 4 teams, Stolica?
I think Missouri has probably the most potential to get a little bit higher right here. They do have some decent wins against Illinois, Kentucky. Iowa State was a pretty big one over the weekend right here. The Tigers, they do have a bunch of tier 1 losses in the SEC, but nothing that's going to be terribly offensive right here.
Yeah, and this Missouri team, especially that Iowa State win, even though it was at home, that really changed my mind on them. And I think that they are a team that definitely can move up, with games at Tennessee, games at Auburn coming up for as well here. As far as these other 3 teams, Dorman, what do you do with FAU now? I mean, how far do you think they do drop? We had them at an 8 seed going into this game. They lost tonight.
Like Griggs, it's not a bad loss. Jelly was back, but it hurts. This is going in the wrong direction at exactly the wrong time. And I'm a fan of this team. I love the way they play basketball. 10 line as of tonight, and with a down arrow.
Okay. Well, as we get to the 9 line, we're going to start revealing some first round potential matchups as well. But Joby, our 9 lines are Northwestern, Maryland, Creighton, and North Carolina. Your thoughts on these 4 teams, where they belong?
Well, I mean, Northwestern's loss at home tonight
Yes.
probably drops them to maybe a seed line. They've been the story so far of all these teams.
Oh, they shouldn't drop at all. It's not a bad loss tonight.
Northwestern's the shame of it, because I even had them as the last team on the 8 line. I like their resume before tonight so well. But maybe the team also put up Creighton next to him. Creighton was, including by people like me, when they were at 500 through like 12 games, we were leaving them for dead. You say, oh, they can't crawl out of that hole. Or if they're going to, they better start. Well, they started, and they have done quite a good job doing so. And I like the direction this Creighton team preseason. Remember, they were preseason favorites to win the Big East and be like a 2 or a 3 seed. They're not going to reach that, but they are. That given where they are right now as a 9, and then I had them as an 8. Their trend line means that they will be well inside the top half of the field, I think, by the time March rolls around.
And also look at Creighton's
5 wins in a
schedule right
row.
here.
Mm-hmm.
2 of their toughest games are at home, with UConn and Marquette and Providence on the road.
Yeah, we talked about how their schedule was very front loaded in the Big East as well, with their toughest road tests all getting pretty early on. Dorman, real quick, the other team on this line here is NC State. I'm not sure that I personally agree with this, because you beat Duke at home and Miami at home, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I'm starting to agree with you. I do like the way they play. I think Kevin Keats has done a nice job. The Virginia Tech road win might look better by the day, but you're correct. I agree with you. They have a test, and they're going to Virginia next week. That would solidify them into the field and get them off of maybe the bubble area if they could pull off that game. But then again, this conference is so weak. Besides Carolina and Duke, what else are you going to really prove here? They can't afford any of these bad losses. Don't lose to Georgia Tech. Don't lose to Boston College. They got issues if they start taking some bad losses.
But that's what they've done. They haven't
Yes.
had bad losses.
Agreed.
All 5 losses are extremely excusable,
Yep.
as it were. And then they do have a few wins against tournament teams. That's what 9 and 10 seed teams do.
Chad, go back to the. Can you go back to the bracket?
Yeah. NC State, there was actually on the 8 line. We hadn't had just discussed
Oh,
them. but,
okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
The 9 line was Northwestern Maryland, Creighton, and North Carolina. Because I was going to give you your 3 seconds on the Tar Heels.
Well, they stink. It's disappointing that anybody would think that they even belong anywhere near this. Pittsburgh's not in. Pittsburgh's better by virtually every measurement there is, including a head-to-head win at North Carolina. Well, I guess we have NC State ahead of them, but they're better. But how is a neutral floor win over Ohio State? That is their entire profile, and that's just simply not even good enough to. You could argue they don't even belong in the field at all with that. That's a weak resume.
Pittsburgh beat North Carolina twice, not just once.
Yeah, and they're ahead in the standings, and they've won more road games. Like, they've beaten better teams. How can they've beaten NC State at home is probably the best team that they've beaten, and their best win might be that.
Right. You look at them. I pulled up Maryland here. It's on the same line with them. And Griggs, I kind of got to go with you here. I love this Maryland profile way better than what I'm seeing in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Way better.
Well, Indiana is better than Ohio
Even
State,
though
as is
Maryland,
Illinois. Oh yeah.
even though Maryland only has 1 true road win and it was at Louisville, I still love it way better than.
Yeah, and I had Maryland pretty far down too for that reason. I think that they're a home court hero, and that's going to turn me off personally. But I could at least understand the thought process of putting Maryland here. They've beaten teams.
Yeah.
Miami's really good. They've beaten 3 of the teams that we've already put in the field pretty high. North Carolina has not done a thing. Nothing.
Joe,
And they don't
nothing.
even look that good. I mean,
They
part
played a
of me
tough
is like, have
schedule.
you watched North Carolina at all this year?
Joby, if it wasn't, if their jersey didn't say North Carolina and they didn't go to the title game last year, Joby, are they in the field?
They're in the field because, once again, it's that same thing I said with NC State. They haven't really stubbed their toe against someone who's Pitt's going to be in our field. I bet shortly against someone who's out. They haven't excelled. But here's the thing. Yeah, you're exactly right. They wouldn't be here if they weren't in the field, if they didn't do what they did before.
But we're
But
not the
it's tough
committee.
to
We're our
forget
own.
that they did the same darn thing
Last year.
If-
Yes.
Okay,
it's not a case
Joey.
where they made the title game as a 1 seed and everybody left and this is a new team. It's except for Brady Manick,
Okay,
the
Joby.
same freaking team, and they're doing the same thing. And
They're
so
not okay.
they're
Joey,
getting
they
the
had
benefit of the doubt, maybe wrongfully to the degree they are, but they're getting the benefit of the doubt because of that reason, Dorman. I'm not saying it's right, but it is true. And do you really think that they can't do it again? I think they can.
maybe,
It's
but
hard play and inside play. They can.
here's my response to that, Joby. They ended up with an 8 seed, an 8, when they had a win that was way like 1,000 miles ahead of anything they've already done.
But they had
So
losses
without the
last
Duke
year that they
win
shouldn't have had either.
That they had
And
last
the win
year.
was over Duke in a rivalry game. We could argue.
Yeah. So
you know.
without that, the difference between the Duke win and the not Duke win is not an 8 and a 9. It's like an 8 and a 12.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
they've
mean,
already
without
gotten
that, I don't
But they
even
had
know.
worse losses
yeah.
last year. I actually
Okay.
think their resume might even be better this year than it was at this time last year.
It might be, yeah.
We do got to keep going here. And let's get to our 10 line.
Chad, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
why the love for FAU at the 8 line? I see, I take a closer
Before
look at their
tonight,
pro-
before tonight.
Yeah, one of the big factor, one of the big factors here was that this was
Yeah.
before their loss tonight.
Well, their non-conference strength is weak, and they don't have a win against a team in the field, an at-large worthy team. So that's my concern.
I think, Mike, just if I can respond here, I think one of the things you looked at without that UAB loss again before tonight, you're looking at only one loss overall. You look at a team that was 21-1 heading into the day today, and it looked like before today that there was a good chance that they were going to go into the NCAA tournament with only one loss. I still think there's a good chance they go in with only 2 losses at this point. And they just look really good when you see them
Yeah.
play. And I think
And
that
Florida's
that's it.
looking better and better and better and
Yeah,
better.
Florida's looking real good.
Okay.
I mean,
Fl-
yeah.
yeah, that win at
Florida
Florida
has
is
to take
actually,
over Tennessee.
yeah, the win at
That
Florida is
does
going
help.
to go pretty far. The sweep of North Texas, who was a pretty good team, also is going to go pretty far.
Yeah,
Okay.
But I agree that at this point, I think they are, as Dorman mentioned, down a couple lines here, probably on this 10 line, which currently includes USC, Boise State, Pittsburgh, and the Kentucky Wildcats. Joby, your thoughts on this group of 4?
I can't really. I mean, like I had Pitt. Yeah, I had Pitt up here as folks know. I actually did have Boise, on this line as well. Shocking that the Mountain West, I gave the Mountain West. That was the other leader.
I like Boise. Well, I had them on the 10.
That's the other leader, and I can be convinced that Boise should be ahead of San Diego State and New Mexico. I could easily be convinced of that. USC is playing great. We all know about the UCLA win. I'm there. Kentucky, once again, let's look at those jerseys because Kentucky has
Yep.
they got one win. They got that one win, but overall, they need more meat. And they went out and they immediately gave up a little. I mean, they're losing to Kansas. That's not a big deal, but
It didn't look good.
they're playing better. They are deserving of their spot in their field. I had them as on the 11 line because I want more meat, but 10 I'm not going to quibble over.
Yeah, but I think winning at Ole Miss the other night, no, it's not a tournament team, but it's a road win. It helps fill in fill in the resume,
Ole
and that's
Miss
what
sucks.
they
That's
need.
my biggest crack against Florida Atlantic, ironically. Is
But-
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss blows.
And they've got a few more chances here with Tennessee at home, Auburn at home, road trip to Arkansas, actually Arkansas twice. So
I'll be
there
more
are.
impressed actually with Georgia than Ole Miss, ironically.
Agreed.
But USC here as well, Mike. This USC team, riding off of that huge UCLA win at home, suddenly turned his entire profile around last week.
Oh, absolutely. Without that UCLA win, they'd be in a lot of trouble. But that changes things a lot to beat UCLA.
Right, and they've got really don't have any big tests left until the end of the season when they get the Arizona schools as well. A game at Oregon, it's a game at Utah, but those games you
Right.
got to win. But this USC team really kind of wasn't really anywhere near our brackets a few weeks ago, and now it's in here as a 10 line.
At the very least, they got to beat the teams that they should beat, and then their real chances to bolster the resume is to beat Arizona on their court.
Yeah.
Great point, because any loss they would take besides Arizona is going to be a bad one.
Right.
See, I don't think Utah and Oregon are necessarily bad as a solo loss. That doesn't remove them from the field. I really don't, but given where the field is, because they're high NIT teams. And if you're talking the 10 or 11 seed, okay, you lose to an NIT team that's ranked in the top 3 seeds in the NIT on the road. That's not a shock. Other ones, when you're talking Stanfords and Cal's and Oregon's states, and that's different. But those 2 road tests, I will give them 1 mulligan of those 2 games.
Let me reveal 2 of the 4-11 seeds here, Salika. I'm going to reveal both Clemson and Memphis. The other 2 games are going to be our first 4 games, so we'll hold off on them for a moment. But start with Clemson and Memphis here. Clemson, one of the worst first place teams in the ACC has ever seen.
I'll
But
admit,
better than
I
North
wanted to-
Carolina.
I wanted to stick up for Clemson, given that they had the Duke and the Pittsburgh wins, but now thanks to that third loss right there, they're getting dangerously close to what I like to call the Monmouth rule right here, where if you have 4 losses that could end up being tier 3 or tier 4, that could be this, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back right here. That is
Well-
not what the Tigers needed.
Florida State at home, road game at Louisville, Notre Dame at home. You could pick up that fourth 3 or 4 loss
Yes,
here.
they could.
Yeah.
And they need, I mean, plain and simple, the only reason we have them here is because of the line Chad says, because they do share with Virginia the lead in the ACC. And they have beaten Pitt on the road and Virginia Tech on the road and Duke to get there. So it's not like they've done completely nothing, and NC State. So it's not like they haven't earned that top billing, but man, oh man, you don't have much leeway, as pointed out by folks. I think, unfortunately for Brad Purnell, I think Kevin Keats is going to win ACC Coach of the Year, not him, because of how they're going to finish.
And it's
It would
kind
have
of
been
funny
so
that,
much
that
better had they lost to Virginia Tech as opposed to Boston College on the road.
yeah, I'll tell
I
you, it's
don't
kind of
think they'll
fun,
get
kind
in.
of funny. We are looking at a team that's ranked number 19 in the coaches poll, number 20 in the AP poll. Meaningless. I mean, and obviously the BC loss happened after those polls came out as well, but this is a team clearly on our bubble right now.
Yeah.
Barely made our field.
Right. And I think the real committee would have them not in on the first ballot, but a little bit further inside the bubble that we are, which raises the question.
I'm not certain they would. Griggs.
Only if they are still in first place in the ACC. I agree with you, Griggs. If the minute they lose that nice little talking point, I think they're, because of these bad losses, at this point, they move from at the 10. I had them on the 10 line, but you lose that first place rule, even against a good loss, like you lose at Virginia, hypothetically. The fact of the matter is, you're a playing game candidate at that point immediately, because you've got this wacky resume.
Yeah, but
Well,
they're up in
non-conference
the
non-conference strength is the 300s.
Oh,
Very
and that's
bad.
another factor that really hurts them. Great point, Mike. That is a
39 or
weight
something
on
like
their
Not only there, but they lost 2 of those bad games.
Right.
Loyola Chicago and South Carolina. But Greg,
Aye.
yeah, Dorman, real quick, Memphis here as well. Team that's really started to play well, and some of their wins are starting to look a lot better as we go forward too.
Yes, they have the Auburn win. They're going to hang their hat on that. The Alabama loss, nothing to worry about. And they don't have any really bad losses. Yeah, they really could have used the Seton Hall or St. Louis, but Tulane at South Florida, Temple coming up. They got Houston twice. If you can win one and don't suffer any bad loss, like bad loss, I think they'll narrowly get in. That's with a win versus Houston, but that's going to be tough to do.
Right.
Today I have them as one of my last few in.
Okay, let's move to the first 4. I'm going to go to the East region first there. This will be Providence's first round opponent. The higher rated of our 2 first 4 teams here, Arkansas and West Virginia.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, this Arkansas team had been going completely the wrong direction until they finally picked up a win at home against Texas A&M, but at least it was something. But Griggs, we started the show with this Arkansas team. There they are again. No road.
I think it was pretty clear that Pacific was the better team. We agree.
But how about West Virginia, Griggs, on the right there? This is a team whose record in tier 1 and 2 combined is 3 games under 500.
Yeah, but I mean, tier 1 and 2 is a very wide gap. It's 3 games under 500, and they've played Purdue, who's ranked number 1 and has just 1 loss, in Kansas and Texas and Baylor and TCU. I mean, an abundance of those games are against protected seeds. So you got to look at that. I don't know. One of the things that is going to come into play, at least I think it will, is that whole categorical thing of no team ever being selected that was more than 4 games under 500 in league play. That includes conference tournament games, and right now they're 5. But that isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule. And when you look at this profile, if you get rid of that categorical, you would select this team. Their schedule is hard. Their wins are good.
I'll tell you quite honestly, Griggs, I did not select this team. They were my first or second team out, but
Why didn't you select them?
because they are so many games below 500 against that top tier. There's so many games that 2-7 conference record I don't like, and you need. Again, they are playing an incredibly tough schedule, but you need wins to flesh out the resume, and they just don't have them. And we've mentioned this before in our Hoops HD reports. Slika, I don't know where they're going to get these wins. I mean, Texas Tech at home, and that's it.
Well, the first thing you got to do is you have to rope off the home games against teams like
Yeah.
Iowa State, Kansas
Yep.
State. Obviously, you can't have any margin error for the Oklahoma schools as well as Texas Tech. But if you can pick off one of those wins on the road, at least it is going to be a protected seed win where they at least get to the table. But again, I don't see the margin for error right here.
Right, but and I'm looking. We put TCU in this field. We put Auburn in this field. They were both home wins. Who else did we put in this field? We put Pitt in the field.
At
They just
Pitt.
got they
Pitt.
just got in.
Yeah.
You're going to put them in on a win at Pitt when they are 13-9 overall. I think I need more, Griggs. I really do.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
well, like it's
Not that, but they have the chances.
If
By-
they
If
need
hypothetically they win all 5 home games, lose all 4 road games, sitting at 18 and 13,
And
they're going to be sitting once again at this 11 line, and a lot is going to be riding on that.
But
first round
but
game
at
of
that
the
at
Yeah.
that point Joby, though, I'll see Iowa State and K-State at home as well, and that might be enough to push them in for me.
Yeah,
Right,
but
I-
they're going to need that first. If you fall to 18 and 14, it gets a little dicey, but 19 and 14, they're in. No,
I think they need 5 more wins during the regular season, and they need to avoid a loss in the opening round. And if they can do that, they essentially need 6 more wins, including the conference tournament.
Let's go ahead and show our last 2 teams in. They are over here in the South region, going up against Duke in the first round. It is the winner of a game between Nevada and Wisconsin. We did sneak
Wow.
another Mountain West team in there somehow, and a Wisconsin team that had been going completely in the wrong direction as well. Although they did turn it around, even though it wasn't factored in here with a road win tonight. Not a nice road win, but a road win does count as a tier 1 road win at Ohio State.
high tier 1.
A high
Tier
tier
one
one
A.
even, but that might be a lower tier 1 by tomorrow. That's probably gonna be a tier 1B by tomorrow morning because Ohio State should fall below 30, especially after this loss. But Joby, do you want to give me thoughts on Nevada or Wisconsin? Your pick.
Well, I would have called. I had Wisconsin in my field. I did what I did with Nevada. I think Nevada's a fraud, along with the rest of that conference for the most part. Hey, can I be Griggs for a second? Where are the road wins? Oh, I forgot. I'm talking to Griggs, 10 miles. But it's Nevada. No. There's better teams out there from, specifically from the state of Oklahoma. And I just am not there, and I am praying that Nevada does what their capabilities are, which is lose at home to Air Force, Fresno, San Jose, or UNLV, and that will end this silliness.
Right, and I think Wisconsin probably is of our first 4 teams. Honestly, I like the best now, especially with the extra road when they picked up tonight.
I
after
think
we
they're
submitted
also
these ballots.
capable of losing at either Fresno or Wyoming and also
back-
ending that madness.
Back to Nevada, yeah. Well, if Nevada was out, one of our top 4 teams that were out would have been in. Mike, our top 4 teams out in order were Penn State, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. Your thoughts on those 4 teams and whether or not one of them should have been in here instead?
I have no problem with that. To be honest, I don't have Oklahoma even in my top 55, but
Okay.
as a first 4 out, that's about right. Penn State, A&M, Oklahoma State. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, Dorman, do you think one of these teams we underrated?
No, there's some, Utah State could be brought up, but no, I agree. It's pretty close to what I had. I cannot veto anything I'm looking at.
Right. Let me pull up this Penn State and the Oklahoma State profiles real quick.
Yeah,
Greg,
Oklahoma,
Griggs, you want-
too.
Yeah,
Oklahoma also.
Well, I led you 2 at a time, so let me get these 2
Fair
first. Oklahoma with that big win over Alabama, obviously Southern profile there, but again, I'm not seeing Griggs. When I look at these profiles, I think that screams, oh, you should be in.
OU or Oklahoma State?
Penn State, Oklahoma State, both of them on the screen right now.
Yeah, I like the win at Oklahoma. That might be a little bit recency
A
bias
sweep,
because they
a sweep.
yeah,
above them.
a sweep, but especially the win in Norman after what they did to Alabama. I really like how they're playing now. I actually kind of had them high because, like, when I look at the resume, you don't see anything that really has you holding your nose, including the Southern Illinois loss, because while that's not good, I don't know how much you penalize a team for that, and especially when you're talking inside the bubble, when you're talking about that area between the first ballot and being in the bubble, everybody's going to have warts to some degree.
And
I'm not-
Southern Illinois does, is first place
Yeah.
in what,
Solid
the
team.
12th best conference in the
Yeah,
country.
Numa
So
Valley.
that's a reasonable.
Okay.
I don't think that's outrageous. That's better than a tier 3. Your typical.
Right, and we're talking
Agreed.
inside the bubble. We're not talking a protected seat here.
Okay, real
Yeah.
quick. Well, one or two I'll put up real quick. The other team our first four out is Texas A&M, a team that had been coming on, might have made the field, but for turning around and losing the game at Arkansas, which probably put Arkansas in and knocked Texas A&M out. They really could use some big wins here, which they're lacking, despite the 7-2 conference record of the SEC. Really quickly, these another list of teams that did receive votes, at least in our top 55s. Not necessarily votes to be in the field, but votes among the top 55. Florida, Seton Hall, Mississippi State, Arizona State, Ohio State will probably be leaving lower after tonight's loss. Utah State, Wake Forest,
Hey.
Vatech, and Oregon.
I had a team that I voted for that is not listed.
I only counted the top 55. I did not count number 56 for you, Riggs. But let's go ahead and with that on the board here, let's go ahead and reveal the rest of the field. Now, Griggs, if people are interested in the remainder of the field, what should they do?
Oh, they should watch the Under the Radar show that we recorded last night. We talk about all these teams at length and the conferences they're in.
So here are the 12 seeds. Illinois gets Kent State. UConn gets Oral Roberts. Rutgers versus VCU. I did not do my team any favors there. And Indiana versus College of Charleston. Probably still in the 12 line, maybe 13 line after they suffer a loss tonight at Drexel. Assuming that you still have them as the Colonial champion. Some people might think that Hofstra is that right now. On the 13 line there, we get UC Santa Barbara going up against Iowa State. TCU gets Utah Valley. Xavier gets Drake. There you go. Steve.
That'd be a fun one.
Drake.
And Marquette versus
Congratulations
Southern
on your
Miss.
protected seeds, Stalika.
Yeah.
And then you get
It's
to
the
play by
Drake.
Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Yep.
Iowa State Santa Barbara would be fun. Oh.
14 line here. Gonzaga gets nothing.
Yeah, man,
I like
that is
it.
that is rough.
Okay, let's try this again. 14 line here. Gonzaga gets Cornell. UCLA gets Eastern Washington. Virginia versus Liberty, Joby.
Yep, Richie McKay coming home,
Ooh,
baby.
in-state rivalry.
Yeah, Richie McKay, and Tony Bennett. And I actually think that is an extremely likely result because I could see Virginia slip to the 4 line and Liberty run the table and climb their way to the 13 line. So I almost feel like it's destined.
Furman versus Baylor is the last of the 14 seeds here. On the 15 line, we've got Colgate going up against K-State, Siena versus Texas, UNC Asheville against Tennessee, Youngstown State off of their
The
triple
Dancing
overtime.
Penguins.
Penguin.
Triple overtime win tonight over at home of Wright State. They get Arizona in the first round. And
However,
finally,
we
our
were robbed of a quadrupler when Youngstown
Mhm.
State hit a buzzer beater.
the 16 line here. Purdue gets the winner of a Southern Fairleigh Dickinson game. Alabama gets Maryland Eastern Shore. Kansas gets Vermont. Houston gets the winner of a Southeastern Louisiana Morehead State game. Morehead State are now our new pick to win the OVC after UT Martin loses tonight. That is our field. So with that up and everything up here, I want to run through each of you for any other final thoughts on what we did or anything else you want to discuss. And Stalika, why don't I start with you tonight?
Well, if you go by my tagline right here, and then there were 5, that's all we have remaining as far as undefeated teams in conference play with Florida Atlantic falling tonight. So now we're just looking at Eastern Washington, St. Mary's, Colgate, I think Alabama, and who else am I missing? One other team.
I didn't even, would you say, you got St.
Oh,
Mary's,
Oral
Colgate,
Roberts.
Colgate, Oral Roberts.
Oral
yes,
Roberts.
Yeah, okay. There we go. We nailed them. They're all on this board, by the way. Dorman.
Looking at the protected seeds, it was interesting to me. ACC had won. The Big Ten, who we were all over in the preseason, we were saying how great they were, how deep they were. Purdue is the overall 1 seed. That was the only protected seed the Big Ten had. The Big East had 2, but didn't come in until 15 and 16 overall with Xavier and Marquette. Just interesting, the balance. We think that this Big Ten is so deep and loaded, and yet after Purdue, there isn't much there in the protected. So it'll be interesting as we get into the tournament in March, how the Big Ten does, the ACC does. And one quick game, if you like points and up and down action, first round in Sacramento, Gonzaga and Cornell is the game for you.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And Dorman, don't sleep on Creighton either, because they're going up.
I agree.
With a
Well,
bullet.
and I want to just quickly respond,
Absolutely.
Dorman, even though we only got 2 Big East 10 teams in there, UConn is
Yep.
there on the 5 line. And even though we got 1 Big Ten team on the 5 line, we have the next 3 Big Ten teams up are also in there on the 5 line. So they're on the verge there. They're on the bubble for the protected seeds, at least.
And plenty of movement coming in the next month.
Mike, any other thoughts from you?
I agree with what Dorman, Dave Dorman said. You know, just there's still plenty of time, and there could be a lot of movement, both good and bad. I mean, it just especially among the teams in the major conferences, there's plenty of opportunities available, and so even if you're down, there, you know, don't despair. There's plenty of opportunities left. So a long way to go.
Absolutely, there is. Joby.
We talked about it now, so I won't dwell on it too much, but I do believe if you want to get a feel for where teams are, shows like this are excellent, but also as a quick hit, bracketmatrix.com is definitely a place to go. However, we hinted at it a lot, whether it's North Carolina, whether it's Auburn. Groupthink is definitely taking over a little bit. And one of the reasons why is last year, the consensus picks from Bracket Matrix would have, out of well over 100 brackets entered, would have been like 15th overall or 10th overall. So everybody goes, ooh, Bracket Matrix, we need to follow it. So what happens is everybody looks to Bracket Matrix as the sliding scale. It'll be interesting if a team like North Carolina winds up an 8 despite not getting that Duke win this year. It'll be very interesting that not that the committee looks at Bracket Matrix, but that group think feeds into it, permeates also within the committee in that way. Looking at the jerseys, maybe a little more than the resume.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull the screen share down. If you want to see the bracket, it is below us here on the podcast. I should have warned you not to look at it at the top of the show. I failed to do that. So we just start over again, right? It is Groundhog Day after all. But Griggs, as I pull this down here, go to you for any other final thoughts here to end the show.
Right. Well, it's just, I was just reflecting today and yesterday how amazing it
Never
is
wrong.
that I'm never wrong about anything. And people were actually disagreeing with me about that. And they are, of course, wrong. I'm never wrong. And they're like, well, look at what you said about Kansas State before the season started. And here, I mean, I predicted all of this, like they were picked to finish last in the Big 12, and I figured they would be a protected
You
seed.
picked them 10th in the Big 12.
Well, no, let's take a look at that right here.
Okay.
So here is what I said. Kansas State, I do not even think is decent. I think they're better than decent. I mean, that's what I meant. If they finish higher than 10th, I will consider them to have exceeded expectations. I meant 10th.
Okay, the puppet's muted. He's off of the podcast. I don't think we want to bring him back next week. I do want to use the chance though to thank everybody for joining us.
He didn't have hands.
On behalf of David Dorman, John Salika, Joby Fords, and Mike Cha, and not the puppet over there, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.